Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu-alaikum. Ji ayanu, bakhair ragale, ni hao, chunashumme, washmale. Ohio gozaimasu. Guten Morgen, hola, boyor, privyet, kaifa hal? Halishuma chatore, ahlan wa sahlan, marhaba, buna, mucho gracias, suavi, bhalli kiraya, hosh galden. And I was Siren. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning into PTV World. You're certainly watching World this morning alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Miss Haja Sati. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is ready to kickstart their day with us. But first things first, hello Haja, how are you doing today?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for introducing me. And Shahzad is not feeling well because he has a lot of cough, so we wish you a speedy recovery,
Thank you
my
so
brother.
much. Which is why I'll be talking less.
Yes.
I'll try.
Yeah, that is something hard to come by because, we have been in the business of talking, right? So, Shahzad, I was going through a very interesting topic, and the topic is related to South Asian culture, which is about the Dastan Gohi.
Yeah.
And so, we do know that, especially in the Mughal era, there was these Dastan Go, or people who used to tell the story.
Storytellers.
So, so a lot of our history or the culture is very much verbal, and that those stories were they had a profound wisdom, or they had some sort of Sufistic tale where they used to recount that. But then it was a medium of a very popular art. But then the British came and they made us feel that you guys are really dumb, and then that somehow that art was fading away, and it's not that much lively today as it was back then. And we have this Kissa Khwani Bazaar in Peshawar, right? And the name derives tells us that the people used to come there from the Central Asia while doing their trade, and they used to tell the stories there.
True.
And this is how a lot of, I would say, Eastern history or our subcontinent or Muslim history is very much verbal, while the Western history was very much into the written. So they started producing a lot of books, printing press came out there, and this is how, they took the hegemony of the information and knowledge from us to them. So,
and not just that, in addition to that, this is actually how people figure out that, that theatre can actually be used to kind of rectify and at the same time highlight all of those issues which persist and exist within the society.
Right.
So if we go back in time now, we go to theatres and auditoriums to witness theatre. That's not how theatre was.
Right.
Theatre used to actually take part within the communities, maybe somewhere in the school, on the road, wherever street plays. So wherever those menaces existed, they would go and talk about it, and there was a lot of revolt about it then as well.
And
for people who were not even seconding that concept, they would come and kind of bash all of those actors too. So there was a lot of beating was taken by the theatre actors then. Alhamdulillah, I think we're in safe hands now.
Right, and it is still a very effective medium for the behavioral change, especially in the very close-knitted communities, or especially in the rural areas where people are still very much into the street theatre. And for that matter, if you see the concept of the opera, which is a very Western construct, and it has a lot of Western literary history into it, it is still, there, and they do often go to the opera houses and whatnot. And I think Sydney Harbour is a very famous opera house there, right? But somehow we couldn't revive that. I do feel that we need to invest more into this Dastan Gohi as a medium of the cultural art, because this is something that is very profoundly our history and our cultural and literary history, right?
Exactly.
So moving on to our top stories. So our Prime Minister is very much apt in meetings and especially making sure that there is a delivery out there, culture of delivery out there. So Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has directed to form an expert committee on the climate change, chairing the first meeting of Pakistan Climate Change Council in Islamabad. Despite of having less than 1% share in the global emissions, Pakistan is one of the 10 most affected countries by the climate change. He said that climate change-induced devastating floods caused havoc across the country, especially in the provinces of Sindh and Balochistan. He urged the need to improve the risk mapping, capacity building to access climate finance, as well as loss and damage assessment ability. He emphasized on including risk mitigation and adaptation in disaster management strategies to reduce damages in the future. So Shahzad, the global world or the global south is coming together on a concept called loss and damage, where we want to have reparations for the damage done to our societies, to our environment, because climate change is not of our making.
Exactly.
But the matter of the fact is that people or the global north is not ready to invest into that, the payment mechanism, because they feel that I mean, they have their own problems to deal with that, and they're not willing to do that. But I do feel that we need to walk the talk on that and need to have a more sustainable mechanisms beyond the pledges, beyond the promises to walk the talk on the climate
Exactly,
change.
but in addition to that, Haja, I've seen that a few global leaders actually kind of admitting to what has happened over here in Pakistan in this year, ladies and gentlemen, with all of those floods, coming in, and it's a catastrophe over here where we do know 33 million people have actually been displaced. There's a destruction of more than $20 billion or $30 billion roughly. So the world really needs to come together on this, and obviously, just like Haja said, that we really need to walk the talk. But keeping that in view, I think we really need to kind of make sure that, for all of those rains which are ahead of us, we need to kind of give an update on that. So, Haja, do we have any update on rains?
Right. Thank you so much. So, Provincial Disaster Management Authority, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, has issued an alert about the rains and snowfall in different parts of the province till Friday with occasional gaps. According to PDMA, all deputy commissioners in the province have been advised to take precautionary measures to avoid any human and material losses. The rain can cause landslides in the hilly areas of the province. So our northern areas have been blessed by a lot of natural beauty, and they have a fair share of the glaciers there, and it is called the third pole of the world because the amount of the snow that is there in the Himalayas. And of course, when there's a climate change, when there's a global warming, there's a lot of snow that is melting, it is coming down, and it can cause a lot of havoc. So we have seen that there was 17 gloves-related incidents only this year, which is causing a lot of havoc in Pakistan.
Exactly, and in addition to that, people who actually kind of think, oh, you know what, it's going to snowfall, let's go to the northern areas. It's not a brilliant idea. I've been there myself, and there's a particular weather to travel to north. So, God forbid, whenever it's snow falling or whenever it's raining, there are more chances of landsliding as well. And God forbid, what happens is that, if it's going to landslide at night time, there's going to be no rescue till the time the sun's going to go up, because you cannot see anything in the first place, and then the rescuers, God forbid, are going to risk their life if it's night time. And I've seen such a catastrophe over there where, there were people, under all of that rubble, and then, there was nobody to rescue because, they were scared for their lives. So please make sure that you do not make any such plans to go see snowfall. At least go where, there's no landslide, so plan accordingly. And yes, since everybody's these days under the weather, so make sure that you stay at home, relax, look after your health. That's important.
So there's a transition going on from autumn to winter, so we need to be careful about the weather-related events. So Shahzad, we know that overseas Pakistanis are a big contributing factor when it comes to remittances, when it comes to their investment in Pakistan, and we always encourage that because why? Because we desperately need that. So in the last fiscal year, they contributed $30 billion to Pakistan's economy. That is a huge amount, and considering the fact that the economic woes around the world are on the rise, so in Pakistan. And our government is making sure that there's a mechanism out there for the people who have their grievances when it comes to our systems, especially when it comes to the income taxes, when it comes to the sale taxes. So we have a very efficient machinery here, which is headed by a very efficient personality. And we are very always spellbound whenever he speaks because he is such a sort of charisma out there. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce my guest, who happens to be Mr. Alwas Jovinda. He is also the Federal Tax Ombudsman. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Walaikum assalam.
So thank you very much for joining us. Wonderful to have you over here. Since I'm already under the weather, but I'll keep on trying to keep up with my conversation. So first things first, let us, let people know what the Federal Tax Ombudsman is capable of and where can they help in terms of Pakistanis residing over here and the overseas Pakistanis as well. Let's start from there.
A bit of correction, I'm advisor legal with Federal Tax Ombudsman and advisor on overseas Pakistanis. FBR, the Federal Tax Machinery, which collect taxes from the people, be here in Pakistan or overseas Pakistani coming here, they are the people who contribute to the national economy. Whatever is being done by the government anywhere in Pakistan is with the money generated through the taxes. So these people who contribute need to be pampered. They need to be looked after. Not to be harassed and bullied. At one end, they are paying you money. And the other hand, you go after them and tell them, oh, what is the source? Give them run around, lot of notices and all that. This has to be checked. And this is called the maladministration of FBR authorities, the officials. So to check that actually, there was one option, that report within the department. No, they being like a colleague to each other, there's a peer pressure and all that. It's hard to get justice. when somebody, an inspector, income tax inspector or custom inspector, he has bullied you, blackmailed you, and you go to like his immediate boss, he would like to favor his department guy and all that. So to understanding the limitation of the department, the government thought, okay, there has to be an ombudsman, and then there has to be federal tax ombudsman, and the federal tax ombudsman can check this maladministration. So whenever it comes to that part, where they are giving you multiple notices, they are not following the spirit of the law, they decide something against the law, they are not giving you your refunds in time, they are sending you multiple notices, they are asking you bribe, they are giving you a run around, they bully you, make you sit outside your offices for hours and hours, which happens very often. This all is a maladministration, and
Right.
for that people can come to us, and then this is my domain to take the litigation in our jurisdiction and to ask those people, why did you do that actually? And we have very effectively been doing this since year 2000, but the last 1 year has been tremendous. You know, when I say tremendous, the complaints, there was a specific number of complaints every year, like 2017, there were 2,500, 2,600, 20. In last 1 year, Shahzad, we have taken the number to 6,000. You know, it has been 150% increase, and the reason is that we have a right leadership. You spoke about the federal tax ombudsman. He's the guy who has that background of taxation. Right man for the right job. He knew where are the hurdles, bottlenecks, how to resolve those. And when the complaint comes to us, we understand it, the difficulty in no time. And then we introduced informal dispute resolution. Surprisingly, the ordinance which empowers us to resolve these issues had this provision right from the word go in the year 2000. But I'm surprised nobody looked at that actually. You know, once we look at the certain provisions and all that, it's at the later part, and nobody perhaps reached to that. So that calls that look for a mediation. No, I tell you, it's a very interesting, Hashra, that in Turkey,
Right.
the backlog of the cases in the courts was exactly like that of Pakistan.
Okay.
Turkey is maybe 1/3 of Pakistan's size, 1/4 maybe, but the backlog was around 3 million cases. So all the big brains, they got together with the judicial approach and all that, and they thought the only way forward is to look for alternate dispute resolution, informal dispute resolution.
Right.
And guess what? In last 2 years, they have resolved more than 3 million cases, 3 million cases in
Wonderful.
Turkey.
Wonderful.
This is what is required here. And nobody was taking initiative, be it the High Courts and the Supreme Court or the other judicial forums. We thought the provision is there, capacity is there, let's do it. We took this initiative, and it's very simple. If somebody is putting up a complaint of the maladministration against the tax authorities, why I need to send them a notice to look for a reply after 15 days, call for a hearing, they come, a burden on the National Exchequer and all that. Why can't I just look at the complaint, call the officer, sir, you have done this wrong, or your junior has done this wrong. Correct it. Come back to me tomorrow. This person is suffering because of the maladministration, and you know, in a very little period of time, sometime in hours, sometime in couple of days, we were able to resolve those issues, and this is something we have done. 1,200 cases in last 6 months we have resolved through this mediation, and this is what we are going to take further when it comes to the local Pakistanis having issues with the FBR and overseas Pakistanis. Overseas Pakistanis, as you mentioned, this is our new initiative actually.
Yeah.
Right, wonderful. So you talked about alternative dispute resolutions, and I do feel that we have also started encouraging it here, because Sindh High Court is taking the action. So people in the Punjab administration, they're doing this thing, and also it is being encouraged, but especially in the family laws, what do you call it? It's not been encouraged in other domains like the corporate law or whatever. So you, I was doing some research, and I came across that you have started this initiative of Overseas Pakistanis Grievances Redressal Cell, right? So complaints related to income tax, sales tax, customs can be lodged here. So what is the procedure if someone is facing some sort of complaint regarding that?
And before you answer this question, just one simple thing, and that is that, you know, we've been growing up hearing this: justice delayed is justice denied.
True.
So, you know, what is that special element within FTO? You know, there's something which I would love to know, that, you know, in how many days do you think that the issue will be resolved and it will be as per transparency and dead honesty?
let me get to your question first.
Yeah.
The provision is the 60 days. Within 60 days, we are supposed to resolve the issue actually. But this time limitation is everywhere. You know, be it the CPC or CRPC or the other forums, there's always a time limitation that we have to do it in 3 months or the 4 month or the 6 month. But this is never done.
Yeah.
Over here, what has happened that the 60-day stipulated time, we have brought it down to the 40 days. Our average time is that any complaint that come to us, the adjudication part is completed within the 40 days. This is the hallmark. And we are trying to make it better, bring it down to the 35 days now. Number one. Number two, when it comes to the informal dispute resolution, this is a matter which is done in days. You know, we don't even get to the 40 days actually.
Yeah.
So we are pretty happy. See, Shahzad, the issue is whenever we talk about certain thing that, oh, this is very ideal, need to be done. And then we give the example, this is done in Sweden, this is done in Norway, this is done in America. But we don't quote examples here from Pakistan actually. And then we say it is difficult, it's not doable over here.
Yeah.
So my desire and effort, and this is what we've been trying to do is put up examples from our own system. You know, create that paradigm that if we can do that in FTO, why can't this be done anywhere else? You said alternate dispute resolution is being done. Well, the laws are there with the family things. Go to the Union Council with the other issues. Even there are laws available, but somehow the difficulties it's not being done for one reason or other. The excuses, blame game. But we are telling people, and now even with the High Court, the Supreme Court, the judges, they have started quoting, look, FTO is doing it. If they can do it, why can't we do it? So time is the one factor. Now, coming to the overseas Pakistani. See, you rightly said, this is a huge contribution from them. They are the people who need to be taken care in a very special way. Once they come here in Pakistan, they come here in Pakistan for two reasons. Sometimes they come here to visit families. Sometimes they really desire to come back and bring back the investment and to invest here, buy properties, do some business, and we encourage them. We keep telling, oh, this is a country, we have done this for you, you have done this for us, so let's, come back. But once they come back, we forget this thing that they have been living abroad all their life with a kind of system which is prompt, which is easy, which is supportive to them. And when it comes to the investment, anywhere in the world, people, they like really encourage them, respect them, and provide all kind of support and the facility. Over here, the moment you land, you buy a property, the very next day you get a notice, oh, the source of the income? Aajo. No, he's a Pakistani, overseas Pakistani, bringing money through a right banking channel and all that. All this is available to FBR. Once you start sending them multiple notices, make them visit the FBR offices, Commissioner Income Tax, Deputy Commissioner Income Tax, they discourage, they run away. They say, thank you very much, we are taking our money back. We do not want this hassle. It has to be hassle-free. Somebody come, visit with the family, but they bring certain things, and sometimes they know, most of the time they do not know. Still, it is for us to facilitate, make it easier.
Right.
No, you confiscate those things, put up this somewhere in a storage. They come after 2 days, they say, you tell them, okay, yesterday your custom duty was 1,000 rupees. Today it has risen to 1,200 because there's a damage of 200 rupees. He feels frustrated. What is this? No, these kind of grievances need to be addressed immediately because, if they are here for the 2 weeks, they do not have a time to go to court and wait for the 60 days and all that. So what we are trying to do is to club. This is the initiative that we have taken. Reason being, I believe the most of the people, the immediate thing they face is with the income tax authorities, with the custom, and once they are discouraged, they make up their mind to pack and to go back. We say, please, for that, approach us. When there is a maladministration, there is an app, FTO app. You go on the Google Store, the App Store. You will download it. You just find the FTO web page.
Okay.
Just send us a message, email, a simple message through WhatsApp even, and we will respond. And send us the facts, what happened, any supporting document. And on the basis of that, what we are trying to do is that we will send the first notice to the customer of the income tax and tell them, you have maximum of 15 days to resolve this issue. And if you are not going to resolve this, we are going to convert this into a complaint. And there's going to be a proper adjudication. And we will keep this in mind that we provided you an opportunity to resolve and you did not, So, but let's do it. And we hope that 15 days is going to be a long time. It's going to be resolved, and because the follow-up, it's a very important. You said the time limitation. Along with the time limitation is that a lot of courts they give you. There are orders. There are a lot of judgments, but there is not implementation. Shahzad, we have got a powerful implementation wing that keeps calling you. You know, sir, there was something we sent you yesterday. What happened to that? Did you comply to that? Report us. So the compliance is excellent with FTO. So once we'll send them notice, we'll keep reminding them every day, every other day. Sir, we sent something. Did you do anything about that? So what we are trying to do is to club the mediation, informal dispute resolution, along with the overseas Pakistani grievances, and together what I think, and inshallah we desire, is to provide a kind of justice. They will talk massively worldwide that this is what FTO is doing.
And then at the same time, I think giving everybody an equal opportunity of whether they want to resolve it by themselves in the first place. I think that's a great initiative. But sir, now let's come down to, because I have two examples to share. Number one, obviously, you know, is it only going to be against FBR or any of the custom authorities? Number one, that the overseas can complain, or any other Pakistani can complain. Number two, the example is that, you know, I think it was previous year that I had my uncle come in, you know, from abroad, and there was this machinery which he had to bring in, and then he had to leave from Pakistan, and the next part of the machinery was supposed to come in. So the custom officer over there wasn't even clearing it, you know, so he was like, you know, this issue, and whatnot. So I directed him to actually FTO, and it got resolved in less than 20 days. And he was a very happy man. He was like, thank God that, you know, we actually have a service of such sort. So now let's talk about, can we only, the overseas Pakistani, whoever is listening, because we go out in 46 different countries, if they come down over here, if they have a grievance against custom officers, you know, people from income tax, only that comes within your jurisdiction, or it can be anything else other than that?
See, Shahzad, this is very important, because what happened, we have got courts, those are the general courts, and that's where the problem is. Yes. It's a wonderful initiative by the government of Pakistan to decide that there has to be certain courts for the specific purpose. No, we deal FBR, only custom, income tax, sale tax, and excise.
Okay.
For the other complaints,
Custom, sale tax, excise.
Customs, income tax, sale tax, and excise.
Okay.
So this is where the FBR operate, and that falls in our jurisdiction. For others, there is federal ombudsman. You can go there if you've got property issue, you have other disputes, you can go there. They are equally effective, but we take more.
What I'm trying, what I want my audiences, our audiences to understand is that, you know, if you have a grievance against any government body, all you need is you need to go to federal ombudsman.
For that, you need to go to federal ombudsman, but for tax, come to us.
Yes,
but,
FTO.
That's where, and the second part of your question was?
The second part was that, you know, my uncle, you know, so I told you that it was resolved.
What we have done is, all the airports in Pakistan, the international airports, we have put up a counter there, which is FTO counter.
Okay.
We want, it is visible there. If it is...
But I've never seen it.
You go there, you will find it.
Okay.
Ask somebody. It's always there. Islamabad, on the arrival side, actually. For the international arrivals, those who come, you face any problem, there is somebody there who is going to assist you. And if somebody is not there, sometime the early morning flights and the late night flights, you can always, we have a drop box over there, put up a complaint over there, and we will take up that complaint in hours time.
Wonderful.
That is the best possible thing to do. But if not, I would request all to remember one word, FTO. You Google FTO, you will find our app, you will find our web page, put up a complaint over there. And then we say, it's a zero cost. You don't need a lawyer for that. You don't need yourself to visit my office. We have 12 offices in Pakistan. Dropping an email, dropping a message, writing a letter is more than enough, and then we will be your lawyer, and we will take it up from there onward. It is a zero cost litigation which is resolved in minimal possible time, and with the kind of compliance is 99% with FTO.
So it's a one window solution service for everybody, and it's free. I think that's what it is. That will make everybody happy. But now, sir, I have another important question. It's for all the viewers who might have been thinking that, okay, this time around, if we go to Pakistan, you know, we're going to take advantage of FTO. That's good. You know, this service is for you. Right. But sir, you realize that, you know, that there was this complaint by an overseas Pakistani, and you realize that this overseas Pakistani was very mischievous, and he was the one who's actually caused problem or trouble for the other officers, or probably he's the one who's been threatening them just because they can take advantage of FTO. So how do you rectify that, whether it is the gentlemen themselves not misusing the facility available, or is it always going to be against all of those authorities? You know, so
We
really
are
need to have that balance.
for the maladministration
Yes.
of FBR, not the malact of the overseas
So, but
Pakistani
do
coming
you
here.
rectify that?
See, it's a very important that the powers of the jurisdiction of the custom authorities and the income tax authorities to assess you, that is their jurisdiction.
Okay.
They will assess it. They will still give you.
No, the sole reason to ask this question is because then people can at times misuse it as well.
See, this is very important. Their misconduct is, they are responsible for that.
Okay.
Remember, that's a separate crime. You cannot be rude to somebody. You cannot, if they are the FBR people are rude to you, if they are have a misconduct, that is something you have to report. But if you are doing something, remember this thing, they are in
Yeah.
official capacity.
Yeah.
You can't do to them, and that's a serious crime itself.
Thank
Nobody
you.
should ever do anything to anybody. I give you an example. Once I was in South Korea, and there was a custom officer. She was checking my bag and all that, and she was taking so much of the time. I just said, please, whatever you need, ask me and all that. And she said, you are intruding into my affairs.
Okay.
I can hold you back, and I can, so you understand, it is very important not to interfere the official duties of the officers over there.
All right.
Let them do it. But in the process, if they conduct something which is unreasonable, which is illegal, that is where you have to report it to us.
Wonderful,
Wow,
wonderful. That, and to wind up the segment, I would state an analogy here, and it was very wonderful analogy that I heard somewhere, that government is one entity, of course, but if you dissect the conceptualization of that, you will find it's an archipelago of various institutions that are working together, but they're sometimes inherently very disincentivized to work together or collaborate together. So that is why, in order to enhance a culture of delivery out there, we have a wonderful institution called FTO, right? And Federal Ombudsman, and it
Federal
is
Tax Ombudsman.
perfect. Yes,
Yeah.
and it is a perfect solution, an answer towards our judicial vows there, and to make our life easier. So with that, we will go on a short break,
Yeah.
and after we come back, we have a very interesting segment.
And the only thing which obviously, we're going to ask in near future when Al Masab is going to come back again is that, if they can do it, why can't the others do it? Let's go for a break.
Welcome back, and we are going to talk about the Me Too movement and the harassment culture that is very pervasive in the workplaces. Of course, Me Too movement, Shahzad, has spiked up the volume around those sort of conversations where we need to point out that the harassment is going on, we need to do something about it, but it does not necessarily has spiked up the productivity or effectiveness of those conversations, right?
Exactly.
So we may not be that much skilled or polished with the sort of the tools or sets that we have to address such sort of complaints or the very pervasive culture that is still very prevalent in a lot of organizations out
Exactly,
there.
and we certainly want to talk about it, but there's one more thing which is very interesting, and it has just occurred as of now, and I
Okay.
seriously want to talk about it because PTV is where you learn quite a lot of things, right?
True.
So what happened was that our producer Saab just got married very recently.
Right.
So Alhamdulillah, Miss Asi has taken on
Alhamdulillah.
the responsibility. So imagine that as soon as we got back from the break, she didn't say action. She said cut. So cut is actually when you want us to stop. Okay. So let's get started with that as well.
Okay.
So now coming back to where you were saying that
Right.
we really need to talk about harassment and the tools we can use. And I think Hajra, obviously the people needs to come together, kind of voice their concerns, but that's not the case. I think I'm going to talk about myself over here as well, that most of the time whenever we talk about harassment, the majority is obviously, for women, or against women. And this is a problem which we have seen in our society and community.
Right.
But now, when we talk about inclusivity and equality, I think that, I've seen cases where even a lot of men are being harassed. And it's not important that men are being harassed by women. That's the wrong concept. Men are being harassed by their bosses, or probably their subordinates or their team members.
Right.
So we really need to kind of look it through the lens where we talk about men and women both in terms of harassment and how to get rid of that.
So that reminds me one of the very wise adage that one of my aunt used to say, that people say that we should be really vigilant when we are raising our daughters. So she said, no, we should be also vigilant when we are raising our boys too,
Yes.
because harassment is a very gender neutral concept. Women can get harassed, men can get harassed, boys can get harassed. Transgenders on the streets are always harassed. People are, hooting on them, and they're, harassing them and doing so many bad stuff to them that it really hurts their dignity and pride.
Exactly.
And ego
Imagine
and
that,
whatnot.
in just recent times, we have seen how, our information minister was being harassed while she was actually getting a cup of coffee in England. So things like these really need to be addressed. The community needs to come together. We have a wonderful guest over here in the studios, and she's going to speak about it, whether how to curb this menace and how can we come together to do that.
So without any further ado, we would like to introduce our guest, who happens to be Yamna Mir. She is the Director, Social Welfare Department, Rawalpindi. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Walaikum Assalam. Thank you very much for again inviting me for this talk.
Thank you very much once again.
Right. So, Yamna, we really want you to please help us understand what are the tools or mechanisms out there, especially if you're observing that your friend or your colleague is harassed. So, flight or fright is the true response, and sometimes you just freeze out there because the sheer scale of the harassment that is going on. So, what exactly should you do when you're observing the harassment?
Definitely, first of all, this is important for a victim to recognize that he or she is being harassed.
True.
Harassment, we reinforce harassment, or we,
We need to have, I think, sort of a very uncomfortable conversations regarding the harassment, because when someone is getting harassed, he or she might not be very much comfortable regarding telling that entire episode and how that person might be perceived by the others.
Exactly. And Haja, the other side can be that, most of the time people do not even realize that they are being harassed. I think that's what the problem is, because there's no maximum exposure out there. So everybody, once, God forbid, if you're at workplace, you certainly are not aware of how the things are, around you. You might not even get the idea.
Right.
But then I would want to link it with how, we were raised by our parents. We were harassed almost every day. Chapede, chadne, to pata nahi. I mean, mante ho to meri baat ya nahi mante ho, and so we are kind of used to it too.
नहीं,
कि यार ठीक है, जाती हो रही है, हमारे साथ बचपन से तो होती है, ये क्या मसला है?
acceptance.
Yes.
We have accepted every act of harassment, but the most important thing to deal with harassment is that we will have to accept that we are going to be harassed.
हाँ जी, ये
Right.
Right?
True.
And the second most important thing is that you will have to speak up.
Right.
Okay, speak up with the right person, not with your friends, not with your colleagues. If you are being harassed at workplace, speak up with HR.
Right. Right.
Okay, tell them, inform them that this is the way you are being harassed, and name the harasser. This is more important.
Right.
This is important, but that's not, Yamna, what the practice is. Now, example, you go to the HR to complain about your own boss, who actually heads the entire channel. God forbid, in our case, that's something which we have never faced over here, but it's just an example. And imagine the HR actually works under the same person. He or she, just to get a better salary or probably to have a long-lasting job, will go to the boss and be like, "Sir, आपकी शिकायत करने आई थी." And then the next day, that lady is not over here. They've been fired.
Exactly.
So imagine at times voicing that is a challenge, and that's something which we need to talk about more than acceptance. So imagine that you go to somebody trusting that these departments are here to help, but those are not. So to taking a decision, I think for that, people who actually work in government institutions, you can actually go to federal ombudsman. We just did a show. You can go to federal ombudsman and they look into it, and I've seen a lot of people from bureaucracy actually kind of begging for plea and kind of asking other women कि please हमें माफ कर दें. And I've seen it from my own eyes because I have a lot of friends who happen to be advocates
Yeah,
too.
things have been changed. When I was in the government sector in 2002, there was no harassment policy for government.
बल्कि
In
Kashmala Sahiba actually heads the department, and
yeah,
she's been
exactly.
very on
Or
point.
they are doing very well, and women protection harassment law, which is amended in 2020, 21 December. So this is very strong law if it will be implemented, and women who are getting through this or who are complaining through this law, they are doing a wonderful job, or
Right.
victims are getting
Right.
justice,
Right.
and the harasser are being
Right, and Shahzad, we do have a wonderful law, especially that was stable for the workplace harassment in 2010, and I think that has tilted the conversation around the harassment. But I do feel that we are still pretty much very unpracticed about talking about the bodies, the boundaries, and the behaviors.
True.
Because I do feel it is still considered to be a very taboo topic, and openly no one is going to come out. So as a woman, I think we do experience more harassment, especially when you are going onto the streets, when you are driving, gazing out there. This is very inappropriate behavior, and that also comes into the harassment. We do have laws that address that, but then again, we need to change the behavior of the society, and that includes a very sort of a holistic and comprehensive approach when it comes
And
to
over
that.
here, Haja, we do have an example now. Imagine that, Ali Zafar and Misha Shafi case, so
Right.
there was nothing against Ali Zafar and he's a free man to walk. So imagine that there's always this dilemma that, okay, what if you have done it or not, so that's one thing, and it should have been based on evidence. So imagine all of those witnesses came in, they were in favor of Ali Zafar. Nobody spoke about Misha Shafi. Then there is another example where how, all of those women, Me Too, took it to the internet, and then, there were a lot of boys who came up that this lady has been doing this with all of us too. So it was a blackmailing concept. Now, how do we get to the very root of it is something very important, because blaming them, imagine how much it has dented Ali Zafar's career, because all of those big brands do not want to work with him now. But he's a free man to walk. The court actually gave him a free pass that, okay, you haven't done it, the witnesses tell us that, and you can go back to work. But that's not what happening. In Mohsin Abbas Haider's case, obviously his wife came out, spoke about that, that the gentleman has been beating.
But he was a
But imagine, yes, okay, so imagine, so for somebody who's been convicted, somebody who's actually done it, that's all right, this is the treatment they need to get. But
Yeah.
if somebody, for example, we have that very famous case of Johnny Depp
And Amber Heard.
and the other lady.
Amber Heard.
Yeah, so Amber Heard. Now imagine that this is for the very first time that the world has seen that a man can be innocent.
No, definitely man can be a victim of harassment. It's okay. The reality is changing in Pakistani society or culture as well. Back in 2020 or 2002 or so on, that is the different situation. But
Right.
now people are educated enough, and they
Yes.
want to talk about these taboos, or gender is a main important component. Both can be
Yeah.
harasser, those can be perpetrator, both men and women.
And how do you think that the social welfare department can actually help women and men at the same time?
Have
Or have you been always helping, within the social
definitely
welfare
we
department?
have 80% women
Mashallah.
employees in social
आपस में भी
welfare
लड़ाई हो जाती
department.
होगी कभी-कभार.
Definitely वो तो लेकिन but workplace harassment needs the relationship between officer and subordination.
True.
ठीक है तो it might be a man boss or a subordinate women, or women a boss or subordinate men,
Yeah.
or women boss or subordinate women.
Or both boss.
Both bosses, male
Yeah,
or
anybody.
exactly anybody. So, the Harassment Act encompasses all those situations, not only just for women.
And then, for
Right.
for people who've actually been going through these issues, where do they go? Where do they report? How do they find
Actually,
justice?
government has established departmental committees, as well as you talked about ombudswomen.
Yes.
So they can go through, but initially the Women Harassment Act is focusing just women.
Yeah.
They are not incorporating men.
Exactly.
But for me, when this was started to enact, there was just 5% working women. Now these are 21%.
2010, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Now they are 21% women in workforce, and men are 100% participating. Okay, so in future they will have to incorporate males also in a workplace harassment.
Right. And
Only if they will voice about it,
Yeah,
that's something
definitely,
important.
but the situation will be changed because I am doing my PhD on older women working experiences. So I was studying that the future world is a world of older women. So we will be bosses.
Inshallah, we want you to be bosses.
We will be bosses,
I mean,
and
we've been taking
our
pressure for a
young
long
boys.
time now. We want
Young
you to
boy-
share that pressure with us. Yes, I think that's
Yeah, the
important.
situation may be turned around.
And you know what the research says? The research says that women bosses are actually more productive.
Yeah,
This is what the
exactly.
research even tells us. But it's totally about taking pressure. I think for people who can actually take a lot of pressure and even then at the end stay quiet are people who are more successful in those places.
Exactly, this is the reality, but we will have to speak up about these
Exactly.
elements because future generation needs some better environment or a conducive workplace environment
हाँ
for
जी,
both
हमने तो
male
अच्छा
and
environment
female.
कभी दिया ही नहीं ना, ये वाली बात हो गई
For
अब
both,
तो।
नहीं,
Okay,
we
so
are doing
I
it.
really wanted to talk about the practicing empathy, especially in the investigative process. How can we make sure that we provide enough space to the victims or the alleged victims when they come up to you, especially in the HR and narrate you the story? Because again, I'm mentioning it again that it's a very uncomfortable conversation regarding the harassment. So how can we make sure that we provide the safe sort of a space for the alleged victims so they can narrate their ordeal out there?
If I will talk about my experience and being a part of social government organization, women are encouraged now. The taboos or the stigmatization or stereotypes associated previously in past, they are getting weaker nowadays.
Yes, I
Right?
mean the volume of the conversation did turn up, but then again, it does not mean that it has necessarily translated into the more effectiveness or productivity of that, because I do feel still a lot of people are uncomfortable going out and reporting out that they are
But they are
getting harassed.
reporting.
The-
But
like
they are
Shahzad
reporting.
mentioned, there are a lot of
Yeah.
power dynamics
So what
involved.
Hajra is trying to say is that we might be talking about it too much. I mean, obviously over here on World This Morning, PT World, ladies and gentlemen, we've definitely discussed all the social menaces, but we're still yet to witness people getting that justice too. That's something which he's saying, that it's not translating into a lot of action which will actually ease the difficulty people have been facing in terms of harassment.
Harassment.
So what should we do about it?
We will do about
देखिए
justification of
मैं
harassment.
मैं इसमें आपको बताता हूँ कि जैसे क्या हुआ है कि हमने बात तो बहुत ज़्यादा की है इस हवाले से, लेकिन हमने इसके नताइज अभी देखने हैं कि इसका कोई फ़ायदा भी
So
हुआ
they
है
are
लोगों को कि नहीं।
coming slow and steadily because this is a social change. First of all, there is a need of normative structure. Government has given the structure in the form of law.
जी।
Right? So law implementation is it will take time. Social change, acceptance of everything, it will take time. And the most important thing is which an organization can do. They should give training to their employees how to tackle with this harassment and how they can speak up, or they will have to ensure anonymity, confidentiality. So I think the team or committee which is going to deal with harasser or victim, they should be enough professional and they should be prepared, or they should get a proper training how to deal with these type of cases.
Exactly, that's
Right.
about it. But thank you very much, Ms. Yamna, for being with us. It was lovely to be in conversation with you
Thank
and
you
for
so much for
everybody who's
coming.
out there. Ladies and gentlemen, Hajar, so my take on this is that, we as Muslims in the first place, and then we do try to be good people, right? So good people, ladies and gentlemen, when they see some evil, they make sure that they're going to report that evil. Over here, we have been living in a society where we're like, see no evil, say no evil, do no evil, that's good. But when you see somebody suffering from such a circumstance or such a problem in their life, I think it's our shared responsibility to help them. Because God forbid, we always need to remember that if we are not going to help somebody's daughter, or somebody's brother, or, it goes either way. God forbid, one day if we are going to be in that situation, there's not going to be any help from anywhere. So we really need to be very wary of it, that our future generations, when they grow up, for the cases we might not have reported, just because that we were so inclined towards that gentleman or that lady who happened to have been our boss, or somebody who was very authoritative. The time can come back, and then it can be you, God forbid, your daughter, your son. So please make sure that each and every one of you who has witnessed that very uncomfortable incident, please make sure that you kind of report it, you bear witness to that, so that that gentleman or that lady or whoever it is, they can actually be dealt according to the law.
Thank you so much, Shehzad, for
Sure.
This is our responsibility as a community.
Yes.
That we should speak up. This is not only the responsibility of that
Bilkul.
victim. They don't have enough power or they don't have enough courage. This encouragement we will have to give them.
Exactly.
So we will have to talk about these topics through media, through our, for me, the most important sources of information are our religious scholars,
Yes.
our teachers, our media.
Right.
Our
Whatever the
parents
print
even,
one, our
and,
parents.
and we should
So
have such an
disseminate-
environment at our places.
disseminate the proper information.
Exactly.
So the people may consider it as an.
And
this is
since I've
nothing
been a part of such campaigns too as well against child abuse, so
Wonderful.
the research actually on child abuse tells that it's not usually the outsiders, it's usually the people from within the family.
Exactly.
True.
Exactly.
So we should always have that environment where the kids can actually say it to you openly, and then you digest it in the first place and deal it while the kids are not aware of
And
it.
डर के आगे जीत है.
डर
This
के
is
आगे
the
जीत है.
important message that you should dare.
Yeah, हर दफा नहीं डर के आगे और भी बड़े मसले मसाइल हैं, तो प्लीज सिर्फ डर के आगे जीत पे ना जाएं आप प्लीज.
Right, wonderful, and thank you so much for incorporating the Islamic ideals when you talk about the harassment, because I do feel when we talk about the male gaze or generally the gaze which makes you feel uncomfortable, so Quran says that you need to have a controlled gaze, right? You need to look down so that you can incorporate the element of humility in your personality, right? This is the character building that Islam guides us to do that, right? And we need to look beyond Eurocentric version into the Islamic ideals to explore more elements that can change or shape our behavior more. And self-control is very much important so that in the first place you do not feel harassed in the first place,
Exactly.
right?
The most important thing is socialization patterns. Families should be with their victims or with their women, or they should encourage them. Or even our education system is now giving them a good opportunity. Our kids are now in a better position. They can speak up about their rights.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for speaking your heart out, and for everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, till the next time, just look after yourselves. 1, 2, 3. Good morning.